Hello, ma'am.
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome on a Friday evening to Brewing Knowledge session. And as all of you know that we read What Did You Ask at School Today for last few weeks. And before we start, I would like to thank each one of you to spend this time not just by coming online, but actually being mindful of spending your time reading and reading with us. Everyone has their own device, everyone has their own books, but to make this conscious choice to come and join us to read is always great. And I'm very happy to see each one of you here. And we also have Jugjiv sir between us. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Neelashi. How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Not been attending many of these sessions, although I'd like to, but today I said let me.
I'm sure. Thanks for coming. Really appreciate it.
No, this is a very good book and but a lot of relevant information. So,
Yeah. So, just to do a recap, we're going to start reading from To Understand His Position. And as all of you know, we started this chapter. Can anyone take a guess what was the heading of this chapter? And we even discussed certain ideas about it. And now there's also a hint on the screen. Please give me a moment. My laptop is a little hung. Please give me a moment. Till then, would any of you like to say anything? What have you been reading personally? What have you been doing? Otherwise, as we approach the end of the year, nearing Christmas, nearing New Year's,
doesn't feel like that right now to me.
already? How do you mean?
Just normal work, yeah, going on. The only thing is there's some weddings and these type of things are starting to happen in a little larger scale. That's the only difference, I think. And obviously, the days are short, right? And so smoggy in Delhi, so
Oh, yeah.
so that's like a downer. So
Yeah. Have you still been able to walk? Go for your
yeah,
walk?
yeah, just come back from a walk. Yeah,
Oh,
just
nice.
from a
Nice.
walk. I try and go a little earlier so that it's like a bit in the day rather than when it gets a little darker and colder. So if I can manage, try and go earlier.
Right. Okay. Thanks. So, thankfully, technology hasn't failed me. And we're back to this chapter that is called motivation. And actually, one of the most important questions that this chapter in particular asked out of all of us was, how do you motivate someone to learn and read? Can you just keep giving them rewards? Can you keep giving them some chocolate to students to learn better, to be excited in your class. And we also saw two kinds of motivation, extrinsic and intrinsic. So, all of you who have joined us today for this chapter, I'm sure a lot of you already know about extrinsic and intrinsic, the word itself. So, you can maybe make guesses as to what that might be. And we're going to start reading with unmet physical or emotional needs. Abraham Maslow, a familiar name in motivational psychology, proposed that humans have a hierarchy of needs. Only when needs at the base of the pyramid are met are we motivated to fulfill higher needs. In simple terms, if a child is hungry, anxious, or unloved, he will not be motivated to learn at school. But if those needs are met, then he will in fact be intrinsically motivated to achieve competence at school. This point is fairly well borne out of, by examples in our own experience. When a child goes through an emotionally shaky patch, whether family or peer related, school performance suffers immediately. A teacher who wants learning to happen has no alternative but to involve himself with his students' emotional life. As for physical needs, in schools for poor children, teachers spend time, energy, and sometimes their own money on elevating their students' hunger. They intuitively recognize the hierarchy of needs. Unfortunately, a large percentage of children in India are not in a position to have even their physical needs met, let alone their emotional needs. For those children who enjoy physical and emotional security, however, motivation to learn can still be a problem. Evolutionary constraints. In chapter 1, I described David Gary's theory of biologically primary and secondary abilities. To remind you briefly, he proposes that humans evolved to develop certain abilities, biologically primary, such as language, during childhood through free play and exploration. According to this theory, we are intrinsically motivated to learn, develop a folk psychology, a folk physics, and a folk biology. However, we may not be born with the innate drive to master other ideas, such as Boyle's law, Euclidean geometry, grammar, or the periodic table of elements. Thus, Gary says that if we wish our children to learn these things, we must provide the necessary support in the form of deliberate instruction and perhaps extrinsic motivators. As I wrote in this chapter, this theory is a little depressing for a teacher. We are tempted to think that it is unnatural for children to learn the majority of our school curriculum. Therefore, we assume we must use only extrinsic motivators such as ranks and failure, recognition and shame to get students to work in school. We may feel that we are doomed to work with the carrot and stick if we want learning to happen at all in school. But I feel this would be going too far. It has certainly been demonstrated that humans are capable not only of learning large amounts of abstract knowledge, but also of creating more such knowledge for future generations to learn. We can do it, and we can enjoy ourselves while doing it. Just to repeat the definition of intrinsic motivation at the beginning of this chapter, it is something within us that drives us to accomplish certain goals, to be competent, to feel a sense of freedom and autonomy. Such a drive can be applied to any endeavor. I see no reason per se that we cannot generate this drive in ourselves or our students for the so called biologically secondary abilities. In the following pages, you will find suggestions and ideas to guide you in this attempt. I would like to take a pause and ask the group, would any of you like to maybe share something about intrinsic motivation for the week? Anything that you felt motivated to do. It could be playing, reading, scrolling, spending time with a friend, with spouse, with your partner, with your friend, anything that you felt internally motivated to do. There was this intrinsic motivation to do something. If none of you say anything, I would assume that none of you felt any intrinsic motivation to do anything through the week.
No, no, not true, not true.
Okay, great.
So just this morning, I saw an article on a brother-in-law of mine who's a like pretty solid eye doc, and I just seen something on shorts around you know if about taking action, right? And so I just felt that there was you know there was this an aunt of mine who was having an eye problem, and who doesn't know this brother-in-law of mine, and I just sort of said, okay, let's help. Let's try and see if I can help her in some way. And so I sort of reached out to her to understand her uh, issue a little better and say, I want to share this with my brother-in-law and sort of figure out how, if something can be done about your issue or not. So it was just that intrinsic motivation to help somebody, right? Based because I thought I had the ability to do so.
Right. And if I were to just provoke you further, would you feel the same energy to do something if, let's say, another family member would have asked you to help them?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's the same thing, right? Wanting to, I mean, just helping somebody. So I would think so. I would think so because again, it's like just that you're uh, somebody's appealing to me for help, right? So either way, I think it's the same thing. Maybe a little bit more because they're asking for help here. She's not asking me for help. I'm just reaching out to her. But
Right.
yeah,
So
maybe
you,
if somebody's asking, then maybe it'll be a little more because somebody's asking, right? So maybe I want to help more.
in your case, it sounds like helping is more innate, whether it is drawn upon from you intrinsically or extrinsically.
No, no, it's not. See, extrinsically in this case would be if somebody was saying, okay, if you help somebody, then you will get something, right? So this is not one of those cases. That would be extrinsic motivation, right? Okay, if somebody says, okay, you help figure this out, and I'll give you something, or this will happen, or whatever. So that would be extrinsic, right? Is somebody giving me a reward for taking action? This is a just an intrinsic thing of wanting to help and sort of. As I said, I saw that thing which says take immediate action. Many times, what happens is, you feel want to do something, but you just okay, karenge, and then you get
Mm.
down to it. But it's just that thing of saying, okay, let's just take action now instead of
Yeah, yeah.
saying do it later. So yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing. Would any of you like to share, like Jugjiv sir is sharing about something he felt
Yeah,
motivated
I
to
was a little uncomfortable sharing it, but till a few years back, I don't know what happened to me. Whenever the podium would be placed in front of me, I found it impossible to speak. My knees would start knocking and I would start stammering. Though I'm a teacher, otherwise I speak to so many people in the classroom, it doesn't matter. But just the podium, that piece of furniture, shook me up completely. So, uh, but somehow I pulled it was very silly. So I wanted to, and I pulled myself out of it. Now, what happens is if I see somebody with their hands shaking or their knees knocking, and if they are asked to speak, so automatically I have this urge to go and help. Okay, so I guess that is intrinsic motivation in a way. So, and though and getting out of that thing of standing in the at the podium and with my hands and legs shaking, that also led to that intrinsic motivation that no, I need to come out of it no matter what. So
Yeah.
the first speech that I gave was also the same, and then helping others. So
Thanks a lot, Meenakshi, for sharing. Okay. Such a drive can be applied to any endeavor. I see no reason per se that we cannot generate this drive in ourselves or our students for the so called biologically secondary abilities. In the following pages, you will find suggestions and ideas to guide you in this attempt. Just remember, evolutionary constraints, if they exist, render the motivation to learn in school neither automatic nor impossible. They indicate that we have to be more imaginative and energetic about our teaching. Lack of perceived control. A new theory called self determination theory, or SDT, is talking about extrinsic motivation that is internalized to a lesser or greater extent. This sounds contradictory. Internalized extrinsic motivation, what could it mean? If external reasons for behavior remain completely external to us, we will act only to comply with them. Carrot and stick model, and we will feel controlled by those forces. Suppose we internalize these to a small extent, we will act to maintain or increase our self esteem, feelings of worth, but we are still controlled by external forces such as others' judgments or images of us. Suppose we internalize them to a greater extent, we will act because we have understood the reasons for the activity, whether it is intrinsically enjoyable or not. I think most of my motivation to do various things is of this last kind. Take, for example, correcting my students' notebooks. I'm really intrinsically motivated to do it since it isn't fun. Yet I do it regularly, not to comply with the rule or to feel better about myself, but because I see it as a necessary part of my work as a teacher. I know it is an important way to keep in touch with my students' learning and that the feedback will help them and myself. The value I have given it allows me to feel a sense of autonomy or control over my actions. I choose to correct rather than feeling controlled by the outside. I would better correct or else I'll get into trouble, or I'm a good teacher if I correct. The following steps show the progression of increasingly internalized motivations for action. I'll do it to get the raise or avoid the blame. I'll do it so that others will have a good image of me. I'll do it because it's necessary and important. I'll do it because I enjoy it. We as teachers have to encourage learning through two paths corresponding to the last two entries in the table, conveying a sense of interest and challenge in learning, and mastery, intrinsic motivation, and conveying a sense of the relevance of this learning to the student, internally regulated extrinsic motivation. As long as students do not lose the meaning in what they are doing or their feelings of control over their work, we are doing a good job. In the last section of this chapter, you will read about specific teacher behaviors that discourage or encourage students' intrinsic motivation. The misuse of rewards, one active and fascinating debate taking place in psychology, is between those who believe that rewards diminish intrinsic motivation, hence reducing the desired behavior, and those who believe rewards enhance both intrinsic motivation and desired behavior. How? How can giving rewards reduce a desirable behavior? Isn't it supposed to work in the opposite way? According to the fundamental laws of reinforcement of behavior, in the behaviorist tradition, rewards always increase frequency of the behavior. As long as the reward is being given, after you stop rewarding, the behavior reduces to its original frequency. When this law was repeatedly demonstrated with rats and other animals, the planned use of rewards was introduced in many areas of human activity as well. Of course, schools were a prime target. But in the 1970s, the psychologist Edward Deci suggested that we might be making a mistake. First, he claimed that some activities are already rewarding in and of themselves. Another way of saying we are intrinsically motivated to engage in them. Second, he said that the effect of a reward depends on how the person interprets it, in terms of how it affects a person's sense of autonomy and competence. Thus, a reward is not just a thing in itself, but what meaning it has for the one who receives it. There is a lovely cartoon showing two students cleaning dusters, and one tells the other in dismay, "You're cleaning dusters as a punishment, but I'm cleaning them as a reward. What will you give me if I play with that?" There was a third problem with the naive view of rewards, and that was the over justification effect. When you get rewarded for something you already enjoy, you begin to feel that you did the activity for the reward instead of for itself. Several experiments have demonstrated that rewards could lead to reduced intrinsic motivation and therefore less time spent in a previously enjoyed activity. One classic study by Mark Lepper gave 5-year-olds sketch pens to play with, something most children of that age enjoy. Following this, some of the children were rewarded for playing well. They were given nice looking certificates. And in a later session of free play, these children played less with the pens than a control group of children that had not received certificates. According to Dexy, the key variable is the sense of control that one feels while acting. When a reward is seen as controlling your behavior, you lose a sense of freedom and autonomy, and this reduces intrinsic motivation. I'd like to take a short pause over here. And since we have some parents as well and some students here as well, I would like to ask the group, um, how do you navigate this intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation with your own students or with your own children, or even with your own friends or, let's say, your family members? Do you ever, and do you ever give extrinsic motivators to, let's say, your children to do something that you think is important for them? And have you seen that the extrinsic motivators have reduced the inner motivation to do something? Do you think this theory is true for you?
Intrinsic motivation, like my brother was not very fond of studies. Okay, so he was in a boarding school, and the teachers over there realized that, but they realized also that he likes making charts. I mean, the school, the softboard charts and all those things. So to ensure that he studied, they gave him most of the chart work. So what happened was, in the process, he studied whatever was required of him. Okay, so that was one example. And then I too, in class 10th and all, we had accounts as a subject. I mean, it was the sixth subject. ICSE in those days used to allow that. So there was a sixth subject. Now, most of us, I mean, we could not There were certain things about accounts that we did not like, but we had this sports day and we had to set up a stall. And through that, we were taught accountancy, whatever was required, and we understood quite a lot of it. So that is another one, intrinsic. Okay, extrinsic. Again, a story of some relative or some friend. The child used to be, he did not like going to school. So every day when the parents sent him to school, he sat outside on a park, at a park and spent the entire day there. And when the driver came to pick him up, he would go at the school gate, and people thought he's been going to the school regularly. Then he had not been to the school for a very long time, so the school inquired, and then the parents got to know that okay, the fellow had not been going to school at all. So the father was a very strict person, but he felt that there's no point beating up the child now. Okay, in those days, I'm talking about long time back, you know, a few, we believed in the adage that, spare the rod, spoil the child. But he felt that is not going to work anymore. So the boy wanted a bicycle. So he was promised one in case he stood first in class. Of course, he did not stand first, but he stood third, and that was much better than failing in class. Much better. So, of course, he got the bicycle, even though he did not reach the target. After that, uh, it studies became. He did not need a reward. That was an extrinsic motivator. After that, he did not need a reward. The next step was he did stand first in class. Thereafter, he became an IPS officer. So I think it was a great extrinsic motivator, which helped him to build up an intrinsic motivation.
That's amazing to hear. Actually, that's the story that would have been quite close to the theory that the author was sharing before this.
Yeah.
Extrinsic,
So,
intrinsic motivation. Thanks a
yes.
lot, Jugjiv, for sharing.
I have an example of the reverse of this theory. It's not personally, I mean, I haven't seen it personally, but it's a very famous example of Baba Farid. So, Baba Farid's mother used to give him good, or used to leave good uh, under his pillow if he read the namaz, right? And after some time, it wasn't required because he started enjoying reading the namaz. He didn't need it anymore. And he figured out his mother was doing this and he told her she didn't need to do it and he was going to read it anyway. So it's reverse of extrinsic made him start to do it, but then he liked the activity so much, he got so involved that he didn't need it anymore. And this is a reasonably famous example, if I may say so.
Amazing. Thank you. I would like to share my own example. I went to the boarding school and I became super bad. I think I didn't know how to take care of myself and my health and ate all kinds of junk food because I got the access to. And I when I came back home for a short vacation, my mother made me run a lot. That actually motivated me to continue running and even join yoga, which I have since then have never left. It motivated me so much intrinsically to continue it. So these are amazing stories. Thanks for sharing, everyone. But rewards can be of various kinds, and not all may bring about the same effect. Think about the different rewards you have come across. They can be tangible, a certificate or a prize, or verbal, positive feedback. They may be given for trying a job or only for completing it. They may be given for attaining a set standard or for doing better than others. Below is a brief summary of the effects of different types of rewards on intrinsic motivation. Tangible rewards, ranging from certificates to sweets, decrease intrinsic motivation, and children are more vulnerable to this effect than college students. Rewards for trying, completing, bettering others, and meeting standards all decrease intrinsic motivation when they are seen as controlling our behavior. Verbal rewards or positive feedback do not decrease intrinsic motivation and can even increase it. In fact, if any reward is given in the spirit of informational feedback, say to acknowledge good quality performance, and not with the intention to control the student's behavior, it can increase intrinsic motivation. However, many students in our schools who do not perform up to standards may only rarely, if ever, receive rewards or positive feedback. This amounts to receiving continual negative feedback about one's competence, which will in turn decrease intrinsic motivation for schoolwork. The above list may suggest to us that we should be praising our students, giving them all positive feedback. But praise too has to be carefully administered. In the last section of this chapter, you will read about work that suggests negative effects of praise under certain conditions. Box 1 describes more general issues to keep in mind about praise. Irrelevant and unchallenging work. A lot has been said about school learning being abstract, removed from children's everyday lives and concerns. From an evolutionary point of view, motivation is a necessary drive towards adaptive behaviors, eating, mating, and learning about one's environment so that one can survive better in it. Humans, in fact, all animals, possess the motivation to learn things that help them adapt better to their environment. So, when the things we want children to learn seem unconnected with their real world environment, no wonder their motivation flags. Box 1 Praise. Praise is formally defined as a positive evaluation of another made by a person who knows the standards of the evaluation. It can be a quick way of making a student feel good about herself, but as it turns out, praise can be tricky. According to psychologists, there can be several negative effects of praising the wrong thing at the wrong time or in the wrong way. In 2002, psychologists Jennifer Henderlong and Mark Lepper wrote an extensive review of studies on the effects of praise. Their main conclusions were that praise can be seen as externally controlling and thus reducing the student's autonomy, which, according to Dexy's theory, decreases intrinsic motivation. Praise can create a pressure to continue good performance. Praise can lead to an obsession with maintaining one's own image while tearing others' images down. Praise for extremely easy tasks can lead to a student feeling he has low ability. If a student senses praise as insincere, she may reject it outright or feel that the teacher doesn't really know her that well. Or worse, wonder what is wrong with her that the teacher needs to cover up. One study reported that while children below 7 years of age could take praise at face value, most children by the age of 12 viewed praise with suspicion, believing that it was a sign that you lack ability and therefore need extra encouragement. Of course, all this does not mean that we must never appreciate our students' work. There are right ways to praise, and these can be summarized in brief. Praise the process of an activity, not the ability of the student. Make your praise descriptive, related to the student's work, such that it works as useful feedback. Praise without referring to comparisons with other students. Another interesting connection is that between praise and high self esteem, which for years was thought to relate to many positive outcomes, ranging from high performance to longer life. The self esteem movement has an interesting history and has come under fire in recent years. You will find a description of this in chapter 10. Have any of you, especially the adults, have received any praises recently from your family, from your friends, from your colleagues? It
No,
could
not
be.
really. And I'll give you a reason. Like I used to explain it to my students. So when we would praise a child, some students who were very good at things, they felt a little jealous. They said, "Ma'am, you're always praising them. You're never praising me." Okay. So I asked one of them to walk around. And then I gave a big clap. And I said, "How beautifully you walk." He looked absolutely shocked that I would say such a thing. So I said, but that is what you are expecting. You do things well, so you can't expect praise all the time. Somebody who has done it for the first time will obviously be praised. Now the thing is, but then I also realized that a little bit of praise needs to come in. It should not appear artificial, but something when they do something well is required. So that is it. So as adults, will not receive too much of praise. Occasionally, it might be that, oh, you're looking very nice, ma'am, or something. But that is not exactly. I mean, it's good, but not something for not of an something of an achievement, right? So that's it.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Would others like to contribute or share something, whether you have received any kind of praise this week?
Yeah, it was embarrassing. I mean, I just did something to help somebody. I was in Dehradun for a wedding over the weekend. I met Sandeep, by the way, and I went to PYDS as well. And bumped into Garima the moment I entered school. But that's another story. But, I was an elderly person and I just helped him, right? And, it is. It boiled down to help, sort of putting his shoes in a particular place because it was the ceremony was a Sikh ceremony, and so there's Anand Karaj and all happening. So you're supposed to take your shoes off and stuff. And and then so when he was coming later, he wouldn't know where I'd put the shoes. So I picked up the shoes and took it to them and helped him wear the shoes and all. And he thought, it was some amazing thing I'd done. And I'm saying like, it's like no big deal. What's the thing? Everybody should do this something like this, right? It's no big deal. But they went on and on. They went in separately. They went and told my mama, mommy who were there, and what I'm saying is like it's little. Overblown, not necessary. I thought.
How nice, how sweet. Thanks for sharing. So,
The
however,
point is that it didn't. It's not doing anything for me, right? But it's like
Mhm.
it's praise, but it's like it didn't do anything for me because I thought it was like it's nothing, it's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to get praised for something like this. You're supposed to do this
Mhm.
anyway, right?
You mean to say that this should be normalized, helping each other, seeing people
Yeah,
need,
yeah.
right?
You shouldn't get praised for something you should be doing anyway, right? Why should you do praise somebody for doing something what they should do anyway?
But like the world we live in, I don't think it is so. Um, we're not seeing this around us all the time, so it has become slightly rare.
I don't know. I'm not so sure. I think you have microcosms of this thing. Depends on the place and which all people are there. These are people who know each other, right? Coming for a wedding or whatever, right? A lot of them know each other versus just being total strangers, right? So, I wouldn't say that it's. I think the microcosms of goodness existing everywhere.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for sharing. However, human society has become so complex that we have no choice but to extend school curricula to include many things that are unconnected to the child's immediate needs and surroundings. This is particularly true for high school curricula. It is difficult, if not impossible, to convince children that they are learning about vectors because they need it. The truth is, they leave school to study tailoring or European history, they will never need vectors. To demand that most, let alone all, of the high school curriculum be grounded in children's lives and surroundings is unrealistic. Yet, this does not mean that we are doomed to drag unwilling children through their lessons, nor does it mean that we have to resort to ranks and failures to motivate them to learn. Very early on, certainly by middle school, children can be made to understand the special nature of their society and its demands. That at a young age they must learn a great many things in order that when they are older, they can better decide what they would like to go on with. This understanding can give them what we earlier called internally regulated extrinsic motivation to learn, similar to what motivates me to correct students' notebooks. Free of performance anxiety and fear, and taught with imagination and energy, learning anything can be enjoyable. And enjoyment is one of the prime factors that motivate human endeavor. The second important aspect of schoolwork is its difficulty level. Work that is either too easy or too difficult quickly loses interest for the student. Finding the right level of challenge is something teachers are constantly struggling with, especially in typical classrooms where a large heterogeneous group of students is working through the same material. It almost seems as if in any class there, there are bound to be some students who are unmotivated because the challenge level is either too high or too low for them. There are solutions to this quandary which require a flexible approach and some hard work. For some topics, divide the students into small groups according to their level. Give them tasks appropriate to their level. For some topics, divide the students into small mixed level groups. Devise mini projects where different group members have different responsibilities and can work at their own level without jeopardizing the overall task. For some topics, find or create material that the students can work through independently. Allow for some students to do more and more challenging work than others by including extension topics. Make sure that everyone has learned the core concepts and procedures. For some topics, hold small group discussions about the material or use the reciprocal teaching method described in Chapter 2. This emphasizes the fact that regardless of level, a group of students can be a community of learners, and you do not always have a homogeneous group for meaningful learning to occur. This is especially important to all of our special project schools, where we get to hear this more and more frequently that there are different level learners in one classroom and different age groups as well. And this would be a very great advice to all those teachers. But I'm open to more suggestions if any of you have more suggestions regarding this. For some topics, by all means, deliver lectures to the whole class. Keep an eye on the students for signs of boredom or hopeless confusion. Interrupt your own flow to ask questions at the right level to particular students. Ask one student to summarize for the others. There are many imaginative ways to engage them all together with the same lesson. Each of the above solutions will have disadvantages if practiced alone. So it would not be advisable to latch on to just one as your permanent educational model. If you are flexible enough to try different things at different times, depending on the topic and the class dynamics, they will make up for each other's disadvantages and you will reap the benefits. Thank you all so much for joining us. I have bookmarked where we are leaving, And we will continue reading classroom environments along with motivation, thinking about the motivation and how classroom environments could look different. And if any of you would have any suggestions or feedback, please don't hesitate in sending a message across on WhatsApp or on Brewing Knowledge as well. Thank you and advance Merry Christmas to all. See you all next week.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Bye.
Bye.